Hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the inaugural episode of GMneedhelp Show. So while we're waiting for our guests to come in, I would like to just do a few short introductions. First, welcome to the Calling app. This will be our platform where we record all these GMneedhelp Show episodes live. So the way it works is very similar to Clubhouse, where you can mute or participate in conversation as you like. If you are the audience members who would like to join our discussion, feel free to click the phone icon, and then you will be automatically enrolled in the calling queue, and we will take calls from there one by one. So what is this show about? This show is currently a collaboration between the Make and Play podcast and the GMneedhelp community, where we will have our weekly discussion on web3 and everything related. So we will post the Discord address, invite link later. So if you would like to participate in our community, you can join our Discord server through the link posted in the show notes later. And now I would like to introduce our guest for our episode 0, the inaugural episode. Welcome to the show, Karthik.
Hey, Roger. Thanks for having me.
Honored to have you here. So first, maybe give us a short introduction on GMneedhelp and maybe also the previous product/community hacks that you've been building, since I know they're kind of related with each other.
Yeah, no, happy to. GMneedhelp is a learn-to-earn ecosystem where we offer a Q&A platform to answer any crypto questions. So as someone who's been thinking deeply about crypto education for quite some time, and I'll get into the community I'm running still on the side called Hacks beforehand, learning anything complex, including crypto, is much more like it's a series of road bumps, a series of things that you get stuck, you have to kind of push past it. It's not something where you can just take a course and just like learn it all in a week or go on a YouTube binge. And, I think people that have access to kind of continued personalized help are really able to understand, and the power of understanding Web3 and crypto is that you're able to participate and contribute in it. And if our suspicions are right in the crypto world, this ecosystem is going to continue to grow and grow and grow rapidly over the next 5 to 10 years. But people that don't have access to this continued kind of personalized help are often, they end up remaining stuck and then can abandon or not really get to a deeper level of understanding. And so really what GMneedhelp, the mission for it is to really provide that help to those learners at scale through this Q&A platform. So I'm happy to get into more details as we discuss here, and looking forward to the discussion.
Sounds great. Yeah, thank you for the introduction on the products and communities you are building. Just send out some invites to some of the show followers. Hopefully they can join in a few minutes. But I know since it's our pilot testing episode, and right now a lot of people might be just leaving work in their cars. So I don't know, maybe we'll just have a 2-person show for today. But definitely I have prepared some questions from the GMneedhelp alpha product. So these are some interesting questions we can discuss. So I will definitely keep an eye on the audience calling queue. If anyone wants to ask a question, definitely feel free to do so. But otherwise, we can just maybe start with some more like high-level Web3 and crypto questions for our episode 0. And for the audience who might be listening to this afterwards for the recordings, feel free to DM me or send a message in the Discord GMneedhelp server to suggest maybe a better live recording time. Since we are building this Web3 community, we would definitely also love this show to be as much interactive as possible. Don't want to just be, 2 or 3 people talking to the audience all the time. We love your live questions. Well, anyway, let's now maybe go through a few questions. So I personally selected a few from the answer questions, and also I know we have some community members who contributed to this question list here. So yeah, let's maybe just start with this very simple question here. So the learner on GMneedhelp is asking, are we in the crypto bubble right now?
Sorry, Roger, do you want me to take a swing at answering that?
Sure. Yeah, you can give some answer, and I can also try to answer it later. Yeah.
Sure. And yeah, no, I think any way you want to, and those are our test episodes, so any way you want to, whatever you want to talk about, I'm game. I think it's a really good question. I'll start by saying bubbles are relative, and they're very in the moment, and it's really hard to know whether we're in a bubble, whether we're in the beginning of a bubble. But typically, the reason bubbles happen is that progress and hype, it doesn't happen like in a flat line. It's not like, the internet's invented and then every year people get excited by some kind of constant 5% or 10% increase, and then magically 10 years from now, everyone is into the internet. Typically, as we've seen with previous new technologies, there's this new shiny thing, and people get very, very interested in it, both just from a technical or from a kind of like capabilities perspective, but also from a speculative perspective. And with speculation, you kind of get the best of people and the worst of people. You get people that are really interested in like trying to fund new things, and you get people that are really into trying to make money and make profit, right? And so typically, as you have a quick increase of new folks in a space that doesn't really have a lot of depth in terms of history, what ends up happening is when some of that enthusiasm wanes away, you end up with a opposite movement in price. I've always said that bear markets happen when there's a lack of buyers. Like there's always sellers, but when there's a lack of buyers, when something's been around for 6 months or a year and a half, and then all of a sudden the enthusiasm kind of starts to fade away, then people will want to sell, but there's not anyone else to buy, and that's where you start seeing more larger corrections. So anyway, that's a long preamble to say that I think bubbles are a feature, not a bug, in that progress is kind of made where there's kind of a bubble, a lot of capital is deployed, some of it's lost, but some of it's really used to fund the next level of innovation. And usually during down markets is when a lot of that building happens. And so there's kind of a cascading set of bubbles. And so like it's kind of like this curve of progress. You're kind of like constantly undershooting and overshooting where reality is based on like where the market is, if that makes sense. So are we in a crypto bubble? It's hard to say. I would say if someone said you have to answer that yes or no, I would say no. I think we're kind of in this, from a market perspective, I think we're kind of in this consolidation phase where there was a little bit of the beginnings of the crypto bubble in 2020, 2021, but we've kind of largely been sideways for the better half of the year. So I suspect there's going to be a larger bubble that pops in the future. Maybe that's kind of hopeful thinking on my part, but I don't think, at least purely from a price perspective, I don't think we're in a bubble at the moment. In cryptocurrency, I think the cool thing with crypto is now it's evolved to like there's NFTs, there's DeFi, there's all these other sectors. And I'm happy to provide opinions on those other sectors, but I think purely on the cryptocurrency side, I don't think we're in a bubble.
Yep. Thank you so much for the answer. And here are just my 2 cents. I think, whether or not we're in a bubble, it's really hard to tell. But, I think whatever, technical trend is there going on, it's always better to be a builder rather than just a, speculator. So, I think the GMneedhelp would be a great product to onboard the next generation crypto and Web3 builders rather than just, hyping people up for just, buying assets and waiting for the prices to rise. I think it's always a good idea to, learn the newest skills and try to be builders or community contributors yourself, because those skills and experiences are always, transferable and valuable. And I think it would be a good idea to maybe come back a little bit to focus more on the specific technology and product. So I know that GMneedhelp is currently built on the Solana chain. So maybe as one of the key technical people here, Karthik, would you mind maybe give the listeners a little bit introduction on Solana and why GMneedhelp chooses this over the other technology?
Yeah, sure. So Solana is what's called a layer 1 blockchain technology. And really what layer 1 means is it's the base layer. So it's not built on something else. It's its own ecosystem. And so it's very comparable to other kind of base layer protocols like Bitcoin or Ethereum or other ones. And really what that means is that as a kind of a base layer blockchain, it provides all of its own functionality around how to store data on chain and security and persistence and uptime and having, people distributed, decentralized validators to ensure the correctness of all the data and everything. And so one of the things that's happened with Bitcoin, but really more so recently with Ethereum, is that in order to transact on the blockchain, there's a limited amount of space in every block. And the way Ethereum works today, there's actually going to be a change coming up in the near future, but the way it works today is this causes there to be effectively like an auction to get into that block. And during times of high traffic, that the price to process a transaction has easily gone upwards of $50, $100, $150. Even in a low traffic ecosystem, transacting Ethereum is easily $20, $30. One of the big motivations and part of the key vision with GMneedhelp is making Web3 accessible for everybody. And what we wanted to do with GMneedhelp is we wanted to really follow the Web3 ethos of having user ownership. And one of the big things that's different in Web3 compared to Web2 is that your data is your data. So today if you're on any kind of, you're on Twitter or Reddit or whatever, when you publish a post or a comment or whatever, it's stored somewhere on the company's data servers. It's not your data. You can't decide to move it later, or you have no ownership over it. And as a result, you're really just beholden to the platform to do what it wants with that data. They can run advertising, they can do whatever. With Web3, the idea would be, with GMneedhelp, is that we wanted users to have control of their data. And so whenever you post a question or answer, it's stored as an NFT in your wallet. And the power with that is not only is it your data, but we kind of see it as we see GMneedhelp hopefully as a broader ecosystem, where as you get more ownership in the ecosystem by minting these NFTs, as question and answer days or other kind of things that we're thinking through, you'll have more ability to make an impact, contribute, earn rewards, things like that. So user ownership is really important to us as we think through that. So I know there's another long, winding answer, but I promise I'm almost at the end. Obviously, and so when we talk about making it available for everybody, asking users to pay $20, $30, $50 to ask a question is obviously not a tenable business model. No one's going to want to do that. And that's what it would cost to kind of run an Ethereum, or the platform would have to pay for it, which is also not tenable. So one of the advantages with Solana is that it can process transactions for very cheap, like usually a cent or a fraction of a cent. And so the idea was the platform could now afford to pay for transaction fees and mint tokens on Solana. And then the user would kind of be obfuscated from paying for any transactions and just be able to use it for free. So hopefully that answers the question.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you. Yeah, definitely love the idea of learning to earn and also helping to earn. And kind of related to that, because as we just talked about, the product is still at its alpha phase, but the blueprint is looking like that we are going to have, living real human beings to answer questions that are posted on the product, also on the chain. So just curious for the people who have, expertise or knowledge in crypto and Web3, what do you vision to be like the onboarding process for a crypto/Web3 expert to be on the GMneedhelp platform?
It's a good question, and I think the honest answer is it's still a little bit TBD. I think we'll need to collectively come up with a way to have some kind of governance or approval mechanism to onboard new experts to be able to answer questions, at least in the short term. And the reason we want to do that is one of the challenges with like existing Q&A platforms like Quora is that anybody can answer questions, which can be a good thing, but also can be a bad thing because there's a lot of noise. And, I think things like upvoting is potentially an effective way to do curation. But I think one of the things we want to really explore is to hold the bar higher and to have folks that are really qualified to answer those questions. I know Roger and I talked about this a little bit offline this week, but I think over time, obviously having an approval process is not scalable when you're talking about, supporting thousands or millions of questions. And so over time, I would suspect that we want to make it more available and but still have some accountability. So one idea we've been thinking about is this notion, like we'll eventually have this multi-purpose governance token in GMneedhelp. I think we're thinking about calling it just help, $help. And one of the ideas that we floated about is like, hey, in order to actually answer questions, you need to stake some token. And staking that token will qualify you to earn rewards. But also, if for whatever reason your answers are not useful, maybe they got downvoted, or maybe people have like flagged them as like not great answers or promotional or whatever, you run the risk of having your reward slashed. So that's something we need to think about through as a community, but I think that's the long-term vision.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely love the vision here. Well, it seems like we won't probably get much audience questions for this testing pilot episode, but I just have one last question here, and Kartik, feel free to add anything afterwards. So just by hearing your answer on this, community governance, and also looking at the roadmap for GMneedhelp, which you can find on gmneedhelp.xyz. It looks like we're going to adopt the DAO model for our community. So would you mind maybe talk a little bit about that, especially for the audience who might not be too familiar with it yet?
Yeah, sure. So a DAO, a DAO, stands for a Decentralized Autonomous Organization. And I think the best way I've seen it described is something Cooper Turley, who's like someone who's been around DAOs a lot, is it's really just a group of people that have a shared mission and a shared bank account. And what that means is that, typically in companies, like let's go back to Twitter and Reddit, the users don't have any say in how how the platform is conducted, what happens, what features are being added. There's a big division between people that work at these companies, employees and executives, and users. And so really what a DAO intends to enable is this notion of a community-owned ecosystem. So instead of having that division, why not enable and empower the community to be owners of the platform? And the result of that ownership, through this governance token, they have the ability to contribute and lend their voice to what the platform might do. So, for example, we just talked about this idea of community approval for experts or staking or things like that. But I think what's potentially much more powerful is for the community to kind of vote on that and offer their opinion versus it just being a decision that someone in the organization, some CEO type person or a founder would make. So I think it's a real benefit of how this kind of Web3 shared ownership can work. And one of the cool things with DAOs beyond voting is contribution. Like, even if you had a great idea at Twitter, it's not like you can go ahead and try to build something for Twitter because you don't work there. The DAO, I think the spectrum of like the shades are much grayer. You can decide not to do anything, but if you want to contribute and say, hey, I have this really cool idea for this feature, I'm going to kind of build it and submit it. And if it ends up being launched, there's a way for the organization to compensate you for that in the governance token, which is kind of this interesting flywheel effect, because then the more token you have, the more vested you are in the success of the platform, the more vocal you might be about governance and direction and kind of so on and so forth. So that's kind of a DAO in a nutshell and some of the benefits. There's also some drawbacks too, and we're still really early. So I think there's going to be a lot of exploration and experimentation of the best forms of DAOs and like the right ways to do it. I think having everything voted in pure democracy is also probably not effective either, because this decisions are remain too slow. So there's probably some middle ground about which decisions can be community oriented and which decisions can just be made to move quickly. So those are some things that we'll have to think through, and other DAOs are also thinking through it as well.
Yeah, thank you for the answer. Well, obviously DAO is still a relatively new thing, so everyone is still at the exploring phase right now. But I definitely love the idea of having the users also as the builders and idea contributors, since that could easily 10x or 100x the ideal pool here. Thank you so much, Karthik, for participating in this first show. I think we'll plan to expand this maybe also to the Hex community. So I will make sure I post the invitation links to both Discord servers later on the show notes, so you can join both of them, and we will also send out more maybe time and idea posts there to have more live audience engagement with the show. But that's all for today's episode there. Thank you again to our guest, and we wish all of you a happy week. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye-bye.